Welcome to the MuseCast, where we squeeze every last drop of inspiration out of Sunday's sermon.
Well, hello and welcome to the MuseCast. We are so glad to be here with you today. I'm Shawna and Dan. That is Dan Kent. And you guys, Emily Morrison's here today. Woo! So excited. We have brought the guests this month for MuseCast, haven't we? We've just been on fire. Been really good. Thank you for being here with us today, Emily. Yeah. First and foremost, I must know, because you've done, so twice you've spoken on stage at Woodland Hills. We work together, the three of us, so we've had interactions. But from the stage, you have twice mentioned food and people cooking for you and you enjoying the meals and everything. So I want to know from each of you, what is your go-to favorite snack? Like, we're getting into fall, right? That feels like snacky weather. We got to put on our winter fluff to protect us from the elements of winter. So what is your favorite go-to snack?
Bowl of Lucky Charms.
Oh,
that's good.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's perfect in the middle of the night. You know, wake up, have some Lucky Charms.
Nice. Absolutely. That's a good one. Do you do equal marshmallow ones with the regular ones, or do you pick out the marshmallow ones and eat those first, or what's your method?
Just spoonfuls, all mixed together, all the textures and layers, all the goodness.
Nice. So good. I despise milk, but I appreciate cereal. So
wait, all milk?
Good. Yes.
Or just dairy milk?
All milk.
Really?
Saying the word, yes, even saying the word makes me buy.
Wow.
Wait, so how do you eat cereal without milk?
Oh, I don't. I don't eat cereal.
That is
I
wild.
did when I was younger, and I was an Apple Jacks girl. I was an Apple Jacks Golden Grahams girl, but then, I don't know, something along the line, I don't even like talking about it. So let's move on.
Yeah. Well,
what is your go-to snack?
My drug of choice is peanut M&Ms. That's like my drug of choice, but I'm trying to not indulge that snack. So the best kind of workaround, the kind of way of tricking myself is I'll do like a little handful of cashews with a date, and you kind of get that salty, nutty, sweet. I'm telling you, it'll blow your mind. It will blow your mind. You can't knock it until you try it. You take a date with a seedless date,
absolutely,
with the seed out, and a little handful. I'm telling you, it'll blow your mind. Blow your mind.
Dan Kent, I love you, but you are lying to yourself and you are lying to this MuseCast audience, and I will not stand for it.
I want to know, how do you find those peanut butter M&Ms to compare to the peanut M&Ms?
It's frauds. They're all frauds. The only real M&M is the peanut M&M. That's everything else. There's like dark chocolate ones. I saw this is an atrocity. I saw some popcorn M&Ms this weekend. I mean, it's sick and wrong what this country is doing to our M&Ms.
It is sick and wrong. It's sick and wrong what you're trying to replace them with, though. Dates and walnuts or what the heck.
Hey. It's not as good. That's true. It's kind of like, what it is? It's like it's like a nicotine patch, It's not, compared to a cigarette for a smoker, man, it's laughable. But it helps, and people are able to get off because of that patch. And so really, dates and cashews, that's my nicotine patch.
Got it. I'll take your word for that. I love my peanut M&Ms and my popcorn. So I love that salty, sweet, buttery mixture. However, my go-to snack of choice, I am a chips and salsa / guacamole girl through and through. I can eat that really at any time of day, night, any day of the week, any season of the year.
That's awesome. Hey, see, this is the beautiful thing about our community, is that we can get at each other's throats about dates and cashews, but then the chips and salsa brings us all back together. I think that's beautiful.
Right.
Unless there's cilantro in there, then I'm out.
Cilantro?
I'm not a cilantro person either.
Really?
No. Yeah,
it's so harmless.
People love it. Oh my! It breaks my tongue out. Like I have bumps on my tongue whenever I eat.
Really? I've never heard that before. Okay.
You guys are finding out all kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's like Dawn dishwashing soap to me. I might as well just pour like some
That's
soap
funny.
on my chips.
That's
Not a
funny.
cilantro fan. All right. Well, that was good fun. But on to the good stuff. That was the good stuff. This is the good stuff. This past weekend, we got to hear from Emily Morrison. She continued our series in The Lost Art of Friendship. And Emily has a beautiful way of bringing this uniquely, wonderfully, it's almost like childlike because it's so pure and beautiful perspective to this topic. And I just love it. And childlike to me is a compliment. So please do not hear that as an insult. I say it because it's just so pure and just so real and vulnerable. And I loved it. So Emily talked to us about being the family of God and what that really looks like and what that means and how she's experienced it. And so we have Emily here, but first we're going to hear from Dan, the summary. Take it away, Dan.
All right. Yay. Let me crack my knuckles here. Get ready. All right. I think that's, I think that's right. I think childlike or child, I don't want to say childish, but childlike, there is like an innocence in like a joyful innocence in your presentation, but it's attached with like an intellectual rigor that I just, and in fact, the first time I saw you speak was in a group, and I thought, man, she's smart, and you see that, and that there's that smartness, but not like that ivory tower smartness. It's this very approachable, kind of helpful, useful intelligence that I just think is so tremendously valuable. And you really see that in this message. And in this message, kind of the thrust of the message, I would say, is what is the relationship between this idea that as a church we are all family, we are all brothers and sisters, and how does spiritual friendship relate to that idea of being family? And I love, boy, I've been thinking about this verse ever since you preached, and I must have been daydreaming when we did the run through on Saturday, because I didn't even hear it until Sunday. But Hebrews 2:11 you shared, which says that both the one who makes people holy and those who are made holy are of the same family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters. And that, I mean, that verse so beautifully lays the foundation of what it means, how real this family is. And you know, and I've talked about that as well, where in Matthew 23, where Jesus says, you are all brothers and sisters. He doesn't say, act as if you are brothers and sisters. He says you are all brothers and sisters. That is the reality, the foundation that we should live by. And then what you argue is that our spiritual friendship kind of launches off of that platform of family. And so there's, you know, there's like different levels of spiritual friendship, but at the foundation of all that is this kinship that we have in the community of God. And then you also talked about sort of a couple of the obstacles towards spiritual friendship. The one being the myth of romantic love, which is this sort of this exaltation that we've all given to romance and into like marriage and things like that, with this idea that we're kind of nurtured to believe that marriage or finding that special someone that will fulfill all of our needs. And that's why we see like movies, oftentimes the climax of the movie, the happy ending is oftentimes marriage. And they never show the rest. It's like, well, any two yahoos can get married. What's going to happen 15 years after the marriage? That's what I want to know. Right. But anyway, so the myth of romantic love is sort of the first obstacle. And then the second one is this obstacle that you kind of talked about, consumer friendship. And that's sort of this idea that we view people as they relate to our particular preferences. And so we kind of really view them as products instead of like children of God. And then you shared a great story about your spiritual friend, Libby. And then you kind of closed off by sharing Psalm 68:6, which says that God sets the lonely in families, just showing how this family model really does meet like a very core need of our hearts, and God is aware of that, and God has designed his creation with a way to meet that need. And in the New Testament, we're called the family of God because of that. Awesome sermon. I have questions, but I want to kick it back to you, Shawna, and hear your take and let you take over for a while.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you, Emily, for sharing, like I said, so vulnerably and so beautifully. And to hear parts of the story of how you've experienced the church as family and spiritual friendship was just really cool. And I think that gives people a beautiful picture of what could be for folks. But the thing that I most appreciated, and I've heard already feedback back of appreciation as well, is just your perspective as a single woman and just saying, hey, the value is here. Like we are part of the body, the kingdom, the family as well. And the fact that you have pursued relationships and friendships that have enriched your life, and you have been a part of friendships and relationships where you have enriched others' lives, I think is really cool and a great perspective that is so important that cannot be silenced or forgotten about. I have literally had people say to me, yes, thank you. People who have chosen to be single for whatever reason, or are now single later in life for a variety of reasons, or just happy, whatever. They're single at this moment in life. They are unattached in a marital relationship. And so just getting that perspective, I thought was really, really neat and very necessary. And when you talked about how when you're interacting with others and you go through Jesus, I don't want to botch your words, but you talked about how because you are a daughter of the Lord, and Jesus is a part of all of your interactions, you go through him to engage with others. That was really gorgeous and just a really vivid picture of what it means to have Christ amongst our relationships. I'm wondering really quickly, before we get into any other questions, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that, Emily, about what that means for you, like when you say that you go through Jesus and you're interacting with others. And if I'm saying it incorrectly, feel free to correct me.
No, that's right. That concept isn't original to me, but I cannot remember where I heard it. I tried to track it down. But the idea that because God lives in us, I can't go into an interaction without the Holy Spirit being present. And so I bring him into every interaction. Mm-hmm. So that helps me sometimes to reframe when I'm talking to people or meeting someone, to remember I'm going through Jesus. Jesus stands between me and this person, whether they're a believer, whether they're not a believer, whatever our relationship is, that context. And it brings almost a gravity, but also a comfort to that situation, because I know God is with me. And so I have to revisit that. Jesus is between me and any other person I interact with. Jesus is between me and any other person I interact with. Has been a really good challenge for me, and not something I've thought about a lot.
It was really good. Really good. One of the things we like to do when we have a guest who has been a speaker is to give them the opportunity to say the unsaids, right? Because there's only so much time on a Sunday in a service. And so many times there'll be something that you left out, or something that you wanted to say, but forgot to say, or just something you want to flesh out a little more. And so you have like this captive audience right now, Emily, that you could just say all the things or clarify or further unpack. The choice is yours, but we'd love to give you that opportunity.
Right. Don't click out of YouTube. I went through, I think my final version that I printed off was sermon V7. So I did go through a lot of versions. One thing that I really wish I had had more time to talk about is what goes into the work that goes into a spiritual friendship. And I got this from Paul Eddy. He talks about 3 different components, and I'm not exactly sure I got these right, but close enough. He talks about time being a crucial component, vulnerability, and commitment. And those 3 things making up intimacy in a relationship. So spiritual friendships require time, hours and hours of time. They don't happen just casually having that, we should get together sometime, 30-minute coffee every 3 months. Vulnerability, they're built off of being real with one another and being open and true and exposing ourselves in a safe, loving context. And then commitment, knowing that we are in it through thick and thin, that this is going to be, I think it's hard to trust somebody or be vulnerable if you're not sure if they're going to be around. So those three components of time and vulnerability and commitment to create intimacy was something that I had to leave out, but I think is really key in understanding how much work spiritual friendships take. Because I think I didn't want people to walk away thinking like, oh, I'll just go out and get a spiritual friendship. While I'm out picking up my milk, or not if you're Shawna, my eggs and my bread, I'll grab some spiritual friendship. It takes work.
Amen to that.
Hey, in that spirit, let me ask you this. You talked about the myth of this kind of consumer culture, consumer friendship. And the way I understood that was that, we have, there's the danger of kind of like, what's it called? Like looking at people for their benefits and features and just looking at them as if you would look at a product. But like, as you're in the world and you maybe you're open to having a spiritual friend, is there really a way to avoid that? Like, how do you, because there are certain types of people that I like to hang out with, and there are certain types of people that I don't have a good vibe with. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, enjoying friends is not a bad thing. I think that idea of, sometimes we have this idea of like, I need to be miserable to follow Jesus. So I must only have people who are uncomfortable for me to be friends with. I think that's silly. God gives us friends who share our sense of humor and interests. And I think that's fine. And I don't think that we need to try and pursue spiritual friendship with someone that we don't click with. I think that is probably would also be unhealthy if you're trying to force something. I think more being friends with people who you're not comfortable with is more an approach to bringing the lonely into a family, making sure that you're not only surrounding yourself with the people that you enjoy, because how many people get left out with that? There's a lot of people that get left out. So imagine if every single one of us in the church looked around, thought that person needs a friend and I will be the one to befriend them, then nobody would be left out. We'd each be taking on the responsibility of looking out for our brothers and sisters. Yeah. And now I think I'm straying from your original question.
No, that's actually really good, because there are certain types of personalities. There's a jovialness, there's an affability. We have words that kind of capture, like affable. I mean, that's the type of person who's easy to be friends with. I mean, that's, and so that is like a skill that not everybody has. And just like everything else in the kingdom of God is for everybody, whether you are good at basketball or whether you're not good at basketball, whether you can read or if you can't read, whether you have good interpersonal skills or not, whether you're affable or not, the kingdom of God is for you, which means that in order for us to be a family, we have to sort of transcend and overcome those types of limitations. And I think that's kind of what you're saying, how I understand it anyway. And I think that's a good answer.
Yeah, I do think too, it's important to, I'm glad you said that it's okay to enjoy our friendships. Like that's a good thing. And that's a necessary thing, but also look for those opportunities to be a blessing as a friend to others. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be BFFLs, best friends for life, but you never know what God can do in that moment. I wonder, Emily, because I know you as a bit differently than the folks watching, because we're on staff together, and I know some of the things that you've been involved in your life, like in your community and stuff. Do you think it's important to, when you're looking to cultivate friendships or even serve as a friend, someone else who needs a friend, needs to be brought into the family, do you think it's important to look for those who are very different than you? Do you think diversity of gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, do you think those things are important, or should we just do the next easiest thing? Look for, sort by same and just try to go that path.
Right. No, absolutely. We need people who are different from us. For one thing, that diversity sharpens us and challenges us. When I have friendship with someone who has a different perspective from me, I get to figure out that I'm wrong about some things. And I also get to tell them they're wrong about things too. But there's a change that happens. And I think we suffer when we don't have that diversity. And I know diversity is a really big buzzword, but if you take it to heart and you intentionally befriend, maybe not best friends, but you seek out other perspectives and other views, it's going to enrich both of your lives. I think it's necessary for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
That's good. I have a question. In one sense, I think it's a very, very important question. On the other hand, it's probably not that important, but maybe I guess what I'm saying is it's important to me, but maybe not to anybody who's watching. You said in your sermon, via V, and do you say via V or do you say vis-a-vis?
I think I've said it both ways. I think it's like, for me, it's like a neither don't
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sort of depends on the context. I definitely don't pronounce the second S though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and that's just whoever says vis-a-vis, they just don't know what they're doing. We can all agree on that. So, well, it's one of those things where sometimes you hear a word and maybe it's a word you've only read and you've been saying it wrong in your head. And so it's very important to me. So
which is why you need diverse friends. Maybe people.
That's right.
Exactly. That's we can always count on Dan for the hard-hitting journalistic questions with our guests. Emily, if you had, because you do have right now, the opportunity just to kind of wrap what you shared with us and really the series as you see it, your perspective of it in a bow and gift it to the audience, what is it that you would say? No pressure, just a little something that you would say like, hey, at the essence, this is what I feel like is important and what I really want everyone to understand and to know.
When I think about the series as a whole, I really like that we picked the title, The Lost Art of Friendship, because I think of this series as fairly unique as far as things that I hear the church talking about, in that there really is an art to friendship and we really have lost it. And so I think what the bow I would put on it, or the summary that I would put on it, is this idea of reclaiming, of really returning to friendship, and really digging into what does friendship mean? What does that look like? How do we bring friendship back? You could turn that into a song, bringing friendship back. I just think that, especially as a single person, it's not something that I hear people talk a lot about. We talk about marriage. I've sat through many marriage sermons, but I haven't heard people talk about friendship. And I think that friendship is what makes single people healthy, what makes married couples healthy. I think it brings us all together in a really important way. So I just think it's a crucial topic, and I'm really glad we're talking about it. And I hope that even though we're just spending 6 weeks on it only, that people will walk away and keep thinking about friendship as a core thing, not a secondary thing. Don't go back to thinking of like, oh, friendship is a side dish. I hope people think about it as an entree.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Not a side dish, but an entree.
Well
See, there
said.
you go with the food again, Emily. You're making me.
I just like food, man, which is why you got to have friends like Libby. She's a great cook, which, by the way, I told her after this sermon, I was like, so I just told like 1,000 people that we're really good friends. So I hope we can maintain that pretense.
Yeah, one of us runs into Libby on the street and she's like, that Emily, forget about it.
We got to have friends who cook, okay?
That's right. Yes, you do. All right, Dan, the man, it is your turn to leave our community with a lovely little nugget.
It's nugget time. All right.
It's nugget time.
Well, I was thinking about this. I was reading this earlier for a message that I'm going to share with the Refuge. And I think it sort of pertains to maybe how I would first of all, Emily's summary. I mean, that's sort of the bow on it. Yeah. And I feel bad saying what I'm going to say now because I think Emily's is a better bow. But I will say this, that in Titus, Paul is talking about, he kind of really gives this synopsis of the gospel in chapter 2, verses 11 to 14. And he says sort of the point of all this is that God wanted to purify for himself a people that are his very own. And that's that family. These are my very own people, just like my family is my very own people. And so he wanted to purify for himself a people that are his very own, And what does that mean? They are eager to do what is good. And I just think that it's so hard to be eager to do what is good when you're all alone, when you're the only one who's doing it. But I tell you what, when you get 3 or 4 people and they're all eager together, man, there is like this inertia that, and even like a camaraderie. And this is why, people who are in army platoons and on football teams, how they have like these strong bonds because they share in this mission together. And I think the same thing is true with the kingdom of God. When you have spiritual friends and you're all pursuing this Christ likeness, when you're all pursuing this type of people who are God's very own, and when you do that together, it's easier, it's more joyful, it's more vibrant, and I think there's a reason why God calls us into our work in community and in relationship, not just on our own. So that's my final nugget.
Can I be
Emily?
Dan? You said
please.
There's inertia in having 3 or 4 people. I think you meant momentum.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, vis-a-vis our earlier conversation. You got to pay attention to these things.
Oh,
yeah, I let me just confess that I overuse inertia, and maybe that would help with my problem overusing inertia by maybe more accurately using momentum when that's what I'm talking about. That would probably help. See, you're making me a better person already, Emily.
I'm telling you, Emily's making a difference on Sundays and on Tuesdays for the MuseCast. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you for helping Dan. Thank you for helping the MuseCast audience. And thank you for being a blessing to our entire Woodland Hills community. It was such a gift to have you up there. And I can't wait for the next time. And anytime you want to come back and chat and correct Dan on anything he has to say, you have carte blanche to come on in and participate. You guys, friendships are important. They're not a side dish. They are the main entree, as Emily said, and they are worth our time and our intention and our investment. And so continue to ask the Lord how you can enter into and maintain and seek out and all the things, or cultivate or enhance the friendships you already have. Like friendship, it's important. It's the real deal. It's of God and we need it. So be blessed with that little encouragement. Amen. We thank you for tuning in. We invite you to come back next Sunday. Don't miss out because the series is continuing. And then come on back next week where we will continue the conversation from the Sunday sermon.
Thanks, and Shawna's on next week. Shawna's on.
We'll see if Shawna has anything left to say. Have a great week, guys.
See ya.